So good evening, friends. Thanks for taking your time and joining in with us. And my name is Pallavarajan, representing PMS Bazaar, and I welcome you all for another insightful episode of our knowledge series organized by PMS Bazaar. Today we have an exciting topic. Why someone should sell Ferrari to buy startups and small cap. The idea is not to sell something, but idea is to highlight the opportunities which is available, investment opportunities available in the startup and the small cap space. To present that, we have an young and emerging portfolio manager, Mr. Abhishek Agarwal, who is the founder and the managing partner for Rockstar Capital LLP, and he is also the fund manager for Rockstar Capital Investment Fund. Perhaps it is the fund which comes with the combination of it is the first of its kind fund in India, which comes with a combination of listed and unlisted space. I think you'd be the right person to take us this topic, the exciting topic. So before I hand over to Mr. Abhishek Agarwal, I would like to give a brief introduction about the speaker. So Abhishek Agarwal, as mentioned, is the founder and managing partner at Rockstar Capital LLP and has over 12 years of experience. He has done his graduation from HR College and further pursued his MSc Finance from Lancaster University Management School in the UK. He started his career in Pioneer Invest Corp as a research analyst in the institutional desk, and thereafter he joined his family-run stockbroking firm called Fortune Interfinance Limited in the institutional research. He later decided to focus on early stage startups and joined various angel networks like Indian Angel Networks, Let's Venture, and Venture Catalyst, and so on. He has been investing successfully as an angel investor for over 6 years and has invested over 2 dozens of startups across all sectors. To highlight some successful startup where he has invested, uh, Loginex solution where he exited at 16 times return, Quench Lab solution where he has exited at 5x return, and Wellness Forever, which is still carrying, I believe, which has given return of 5x so far, and many more to mention. And he has successfully formed a SEBI registered VC fund, which is called Rockstar Capital Investment Fund, which I mentioned in the beginning in September 2018. Abhishek, it is our pleasure having you with us, and the floor is yours.
Thank you, Palava. Uh, Thank you, everybody, for joining in, and hopefully it becomes an interesting webinar for all of you for getting these new thoughts. Before I start, I would like to wish all of you a very happy Akshaya Tritiya and Eid Mubarak, and hope everybody out there is safe and sound along with the family. So before we start, I mean, just a quick disclaimer. Whatever we are going to discuss here is just for the information purpose. Nowhere we are recommending any stock to buy or sell. It is purely a function of our presentation. What we have done, we are sharing that to the audience. So thank you. So of course, thank you, Palava, for covering me. My brief profile is already there. I would like to just pick up a few points here. Before I just started my career, I was always fascinated that what is happening in the startup ecosystem, and therefore I got an opportunity in 2014 where anyways I was doing listed equities, investments, and of course backed by research. I also thought that let me just get into this side where the things are emerging, and I guess the experience was great. So from 2014 till 18, I managed to invest close to 2 dozen of startups, and of course, few of them are mentioned here as Palava has already covered. Considering that both listed equities as well as startups, both were in tandemly were doing great. I thought I would bring that into a strategy and therefore launch a fund. So of course, this presentation is mainly to educate everybody and what is happening in the ecosystem rather than covering anything else. I'll move quickly. So quick summary, let's first understand what is happening in the overall, markets. As I, would like to say that, we are a hybrid fund, one of a kind, where we are investing both in public listed equity markets as well as startups. So the initial, 15, 20 minutes, I would like to cover more on the listed equity side, and then probably I'll move on the unlisted space. So here we would like to first, explain you that people typically get nervous and when they are looking at markets from last 1 year, and especially when the markets have done so well. Then again, the question comes at how long this can continue. What is going to happen? We are already riding the second wave of COVID. Whether we should buy or whether we should sell. I mean, all those kind of questions come, right? So I would like to cover from my point of view. If you look at overall, global equity markets, what has happened in last, good couple of months, if we have to consider, then certainly there has been a lot of, new money which got printed by the central government. So if you look at from the, Japan, Germany, USA, UK, China, all of these countries were, pumping money into their ecosystem in the system, so that liquidity is ample to the banks, and therefore people are not suffering in terms of the COVID impact. And if you have to look at from the developed nation, of course, the money was much largely available to them than actually to us. So, Japan and Germany actually managed to, put almost like a 50% plus kind of, liquidity into the system of the GDP, what they are already having. So that way, of course, new money came into the system, and that is already, coming to the emerging markets. Vaccination dose, again, UK, USA, Germany, again, developed nations were very, very proactive in vaccinating their population. And if you look at already, UK and USA is almost touched 50% mark in terms of providing the first dose. So I guess this COVID impact probably can last for another 1 year, but eventually, once everybody gets vaccinated, then things will definitely come back to the normal. So that's one big thing which we need to keep in mind. Of course, we are looking at much better results. We look at from the organized sector, you are looking at pharma, IT, and commodities, and you look at those results. They are really giving you, something supernatural, something which we have not seen probably in a long, long time. So of course, companies are getting organized. They are getting more active in terms of how they're managing their cost and supply. How do we see COVID 2.0 impact? I mean, already, the daily cases are close to about now probably 3.5 lakhs. I guess this should be the peak overall. That should continue for some while, but then it will definitely get controlled because of the proactive, participants by the government. Look at from the Indian account. I mean, overall, globally, 46% is because of the population factor. We are really high, and yes, there are shortage of vaccination, etc. But I guess this is a short-term, supply issue rather than longer one. Probably in a couple of months, things would definitely get better. If you look at from the liquidity point of view, as I covered, another point to note is the interest rates. Now, most of the countries, if you look at, they're trading between 0% to 0.5% kind of interest rates globally. So again, there is no other alternative for people to actually park their money. And that's where the things are in terms of the liquidity and the equity boom, which we are already witnessing. Weakness in dollar index is another one coincidence which we can look at from the bull market point of view, which has been historically seen. Again, if someone is printing, dollars to that capacity, of course, you are going to see that, the dollar is going to get weakened. And if the dollar is getting weakened, again, that's another sign which pushes the equity markets, overall. Another point to consider is, back of commodities bull run, which was earlier seen back before 2008. So again, we understand that commodities are quite a cyclical in nature, and considering that we have a ample of liquidity environment and also a low interest rate, we are seeing the new emergence of this bull run itself in the commodity. And we have already looked at in the last 1 year the kind of run we have looked at it, different commodities like rice. You look at sugar, look at oil, look at LNG gas, across steel. All of them have actually been trading probably in a very, very, all-time high or probably near to the all-time high. So we believe that this is going to continue for some time. Again, because of the disruption we are looking in the global arena. Macro data wise, we are looking at probably a V-shaped recovery from the last year, fall down. If you look at from the WPI index of India, if we look at from the May 2020 point of view, and now this year in March, the data itself have moved from -3% to +7%. So definitely, that is going back. We are again consuming. CPI has been range bound 4 to 5%. Again, manufacturing has been robust. So therefore, there is a lot of fundamental which is there because of this where the markets are trading today. Even if you look at from the GST collection, which would be probably one of the very, very important number to note, almost close to 1.4 lakh crore is what the collection came from the government. So these are hard numbers, and therefore it proves that there is a robustness in the economy, and due to which the markets are actually holding their gains, which has happened over the last 1 year. Liquidity point of view, FII has been the net buyers close to $27 billion. That's the money which has come in the last 1 year. And DIS has been a net seller, unfortunately, again, because of a lot of redemption which would have come through this pandemic. And again, better than corporate earnings, expected earnings, FII limits change from the notification by government. So this particular slide would be talking about the fundamentals of the economy. If you look at from the GDP point of view, where we are at this point of time, we are close to about 2.9 trillion dollars economy, and I'm quite confident if we look at from the 2030 kind of point of view, where we are just going little far, then we have the potential to actually touch close to 8 to 10 trillion dollars of economy, and that would be the fastest growing economy in the world, and that probably can continue for another 10 years. So according to me, I'm quite bullish on India, and I believe that this is one of a kind decade where people should be looking at all sort of businesses to definitely venture out. Another point to consider from the per capita GDP, if you look at from our end, where we are today, close to $1,800 is what is our per capita GDP. And if you look at from the China, that was somewhere they were close to that number back in 2008, 2009. So of course, there is a lag effect from our end because we are still catching up. But that's a potential to see that what happens if the economy actually crosses more than $2,000 per capita GDP. So then there is somebody say there's a J curve, there is a big a hockey stick curve. So again, it can be looked at from the data that what happened after 2008 till 2020 in the Chinese market, and that something has been proven if you look at the other developed nations like US and even Japan. So I am very confident that as we are growing as an economy, our consumption would definitely increase, our spending power will further increase, and therefore that will enable us to do a lot of things going forward. From the equity market point of view, we feel that India and China or probably the emerging markets are still cheaper. Look at from the US point of view, the market cap to GDP is almost 183% versus if you look at from India and China, which is close to about 85-86%. So that way, again, we are holding up. Fundamentally, the way how you should assume is that if the economy is growing and if the economy is whatever its size is, then that country total market cap or the total listed company together put together should be actually mirroring the total GDP. So that's what exactly it means. So eventually, if today we are close to this number, and if we just take it another 8 years from today, and if $10 trillion is the number we are able to achieve by 2030, then possibly we should be able to see the same number itself in the listed equity market from the total market point of view. So it's a huge potential which is going to come and unfold, and therefore looking at anything short term might be quite a costly affair. From the financial inclusion point of view, again, our country is moving from the physical asset to a digital asset, thanks to a lot of emerging startups which are doing so, and therefore it is a change of habit which is happening in the Indian household, and more financial assets would be then going forward would be held, and therefore it will be more on the digital side. Again, there has been ample participation and ample data study available from different agencies that how the direct equity versus how people are putting the money in the mutual fund industry is actually going to go up, again supported by data. EPS and Nifty chart we have tried to put here. So different media agencies try to show that how markets are so expensive. If we look at from current point of view, probably Nifty would be trading close to 23 to 25 times of its price to earning if you have to consider 1 year forward. But if you just take 3 years ahead and consider the growth, what we are looking at this point of time from the results which the current companies are giving, then the markets are actually trading at almost close to 12 times to the FY24 numbers. So it is again, as I said, that today the vision has to be a little longer than a shorter tenure. On a shorter tenure, things might look expensive, but if you're going to have a hold and buy and hold strategy, then probably you will be rewarded in the long term. So what is the listed market dynamics, right? Fine, everybody is doing investments, market is so huge, but where is the market? What is our depth? That is very important to note. So as I mentioned, that India is a $2.9 trillion economy. The same has been a representation from the BSE total market cap, which represents at $2.76 trillion, right? Which is almost like a 0.95x of the GDP. So almost mirroring, as I said earlier, that it should mirror, and that's what exactly is happening. Now, what is the depth here? If you divide the entire market from large cap, mid cap, small cap, and micro cap, then if you look at very interestingly, the large cap and the mid cap, if you look at all the data together, this 250 companies is actually coming in a bandwidth from 8,000 crores to as high as 13 lakh crores. And then suddenly there is a big dip. You look at 4,700 companies, that is almost 4,100 in the micro cap, and small cap as 666. 4,700 companies out of the total 5,000 companies which are listed falls under the bracket of small and micro cap. Diamonds are available in a place where nobody can see and go, right? So diamonds are rough, and therefore these stocks, the ones which are yet not figured out, are the lying in the bottom of the pyramid. And again, this is so skewed, right? I mean, where on earth a country like India, which is having a 138 crore population, the third largest economy in the world, is sitting with almost 4,700 companies lying below 8,000 crores or less than $1 billion, right? That's where the opportunity comes, because this is not going to remain forever. This is not going to remain as this is. Even if you look at a 10% shift from the bottom micro cap to probably a mid cap, the kind of value creation can happen going forward in the next 10 years. It's going to be a record, right? So again, this is where it is. From Rockstar point of view, we focus on our theme, which is called fact edge theme, which is basically compromising of financial, agriculture, consumption, technology, and healthcare. Now, if we have to look at these 5 major sectors, then the total market cap of that 5 sectors would be close to $1.8 trillion, which means close to 740 stocks actually comes into this bracket. And that's where we focus on, because we feel that, if you look at from the data point of view, again, 66% of the market cap is actually dominated by this fact edge and is contributing 62% to the economy. So these are the 5 sectors which we are bullish on, and we would be continue to invest and look in this opportunity. Again, just to give you a focus, we are a mid cap and small cap focused fund from the listed equity space. So we, of course, as I said, that focus on the bottom of the pyramid stocks, which is still not covered. And therefore, if we go back and look at the dynamics under the fact edge theme, so this is a slide which actually gives a lot of data. So what we are saying that out of the total universe, we are focusing on odd 463 stocks, which is compromising of this mid and small cap fact edge theme, right? Which again, it coming about 364, 365, close to $1 billion of the market cap lying here, which is again quite small and low compared to the overall market cap. At this point of time, the universe actually, the mid cap and small cap index actually shows 12% of the India GDP and 13% of the total market cap. So again, this theme is going to play in a very, very larger way. And we are focusing on certain sectors, sub-sectors, which are again NBFCs, insurance, private banks, fertilizers, agrochemicals under agriculture, consumer or consumption is of course a very big theme, technology, healthcare. So these are sub-sectors which we are again focusing on, and just give you a bird's eye view in terms of what detailing we do when we have to look for those stocks. If we have to see that why we chose this 5 sectors broadly, then these are the few pointers I would like to touch upon. Under financial, we believe that it is again predominant that any country which really grows, the financial sector is a backbone, and therefore it is natural to actually look at financials, which is of course contributing the larger part. If you look at from again low credit to GDP ratio, you look at from the participation from the mutual fund industry, looking from the leading sectors, low penetration again from the insurance policies. So there are a lot of things which we know that country is still under penetrated, and therefore we would like to remain bullish on the financial sector. Agriculture again is quite interesting that it just contribute 15% of our GDP in a size of this nature. Again, 58% of the population is only contributing to that extent. So again, the big size opportunity, and we have seen last year how our government, Narendra Modi government led, has actually announced so many new incentives and reforms in the agriculture sector, which definitely would enable the sector forward to come up and contribute better in the overall GDP. Again, low farm mechanisms, government thrust, doubling farmers' income focus, and dairy and fishery, which is again important sectors to look at it. So we are looking at this sector from that angle. Consumption, as I said, at the size of our population, definitely consumption is quite a big theme, and we believe that it is a structural in nature, and therefore this is again a place where we are bullish on. Technology, we are having that dominance, right from last 2 decades. We have already seen how TCS, Infosys, and other leading IT companies have really made a mark at international level. And now same thing is happening from the startup ecosystem, which are focusing in India. So therefore, technology is by default a nature to focus on, and we are definitely looking at certain things which is basically resilient even in the COVID times. Very large offshore opportunities available even now in terms of looking at new countries. Going to be a digital hub to the world, I guess, at this point of time. And there are so many sectors which are still need to be organized through the IT sector. Healthcare, I mean, there's no ways that this requires a lot of discussion. Post-COVID, we are already aware of what has happened in the country. Is a huge focus to be done on healthcare, and India alone is quite a big country to focus on. So healthcare is definitely one thing. So before I would say a couple of years ago, most of these pharmaceutical companies were actually focused on outside India, right? Like a nation like US or Europe, and that was similar to IT industry. The moment you start focusing on our own country, the opportunity becomes much larger. Again, it's a population game. Again, we know that what is the situation we are facing today. So healthcare again remains quite a big sector to look at it. So these are the 5 major sectors which we are focusing on, and these are the few reasons why we are looking at this. What is our research framework? See, when you are investing into equity markets, it is not that difficulty in terms of putting your money, right? You sitting there, me sitting here, we all have that bank account. We can simply write a check. Is it so difficult? So the difficulty is not in investing. The difficulty is actually choosing the right company and knowing that why are you betting on that company and for how long can you sit on that company, because that's where the value creation happens. If you're coming with a 10, 20, 30% kind of return expectation, that is something is available when you're doing a short-term trading opportunity. But if somebody has to consider a wealth creation, that is paramount, that one has to have a framework. We at Rockstar definitely believes that we definitely can't afford to just invest at a blindside way. So we have our own research framework which we have highlighted in this again slide. Apart from of course looking at a fact edge theme macro level, we look at the GDP numbers, IIP, inflation numbers. We definitely consider what are the fundamental things are happening in the ecosystem, as if what is the inflow and outflow overall, whether the market sentiments are great or not, whether government policies are supportive or not. We look from the stock selection point of view. We do make sure that those companies which we are buying are definitely rock solid, and therefore EBITDA margins and PAT margins are definitely one thing which is important to us. We'll do look at ROEs, FCF, promoter pledge should be near to zero, fairness in disclosure. So all these hygiene checks are done. Another important thing which we always make sure that the promoter holding is adequately there, so that we are buying where the promoter skin is there in the place. Policy action, market leadership, past business track record, These are all the things we are, of course, looking at very, very importantly. Result tracking, con call, management meet are, of course, quite a standard thing and expected, which we continue to do. And exit strategies, of course, when we are looking some things, in comparison to a sector, if that particular subsector of that sector is not doing that well because of something, then probably we'll take an exit. Otherwise, we typically like to remain long. So what has been our performance, of course, right? What Rockstone has done so far. So we started our journey back in December 2018. Now it has been 2 years since we have been running this fund. And our strategy remains that we park our 51% of the money in unlisted and 49% of the money in the listed equities, primarily in the mid and small cap. So if we look at from the stock point of view, these are the stocks which we were holding, and these are the returns which they have made over the last 1 year. These are again absolute returns, and again we focus on quality. That is very, very important and paramount for anybody. If we have to consider our own performance from the inception, we have managed to deliver 32% return on an annualized basis, and of course an absolute return. If you look at from the index point of view, the alpha would be more than 3%. On a CAGR, 13% plus is something we would have generated. And again, certain companies which has done well in the theme are mentioned here, like Tata Elxsi, Persistent, Granules. These are again, leaders in their own space, and we definitely so far have been holding these stocks. Again, these are not the recommendation. We are just showing you what we have done so far, and independently you can verify with your advisors if you ever enter in these stocks which we are sharing here. Again, we do make a sense that where our weightage should be, so the weightage and etc. has been given. So I would like to now move to the next part, which is the exciting part on startups. Before that, I will take a pause, and if there is anything which Pallava you would like to add, please let me know. Else, I will continue with the next part, which is startups, which is very, very known in the ecosystem, but not very well understood. So I'll try to explain whatever best I can here.
No, we'll go ahead, Abhishek. Perhaps I'm excited as well. Let's go ahead and we'll have a Q&A session post, completing the presentation.
Sure. Thanks. So guys, what is happening, right? Startups we are all aware of, and people do talk day in, day out. It is already quite popular in the media, in our social circle, but where we are. So this is quite a quick landscape if you look at it, where we are at this point of time. India is already a house of 50 unicorns as we speak today. The term unicorn means a company which commands a market valuation of more than $1 billion, or at currency rate of today, probably if I just assume a 75 rupees exchange rate to the dollar, then 7,500 crores, the market valuation of a company would be considered as a unicorn. Now, interestingly, if we have just seen the listed equity slide, there were just hardly about 250 to 300 odd companies in the public listed equity markets which have crossed $1 billion valuation. And now if you look at from the private market point of view, we have already sitting in 50 companies, right? If you look at from the last 10 years. Interestingly, the 2020 and 2021, both these years, we have seen a phenomenal rise from the startup ecosystem in terms of their new valuation discovery. 2021 alone, where we are today in this point of time, just 4 months, we have already seen new 12 unicorns emerging out of the ecosystem, which would be the fastest ever if you have to consider from any other country. So this is for real. This is for real. This is what is happening going forward. If we have to consider from the recent published report by Credit Suisse, then it is expected that India is going to house close to 100 unicorns by 2030. I guess that number should be achieved probably by this pace in next couple of years. So we are very bullish that this new emerging companies which are tech enabled definitely going to create new businesses in a new way, and therefore that's the opportunity what as a fund we are providing in our structure. Some of the popular names we all know have already achieved quite a name, like a Paytm, Baiju, Oyo and Ola, which are already the leading names in the startup ecosystem. Recent funding, again, we are looking that a lot of money actually is pumping in the country. Last year alone, $10 billion actually came in India ecosystem. This year alone, we have seen more than $5.5 billion itself coming in 4 months. Therefore, a lot of money is flowing in the private market, which definitely should not be ignored by anybody here. And the proof is, again, if you look at from Byju's, Swiggy, ShareChat numbers, these names are already doing phenomenally in terms of their fundraise. So what is happening overall, right? I mean, where we are in a nutshell. So India is already a place where more than 55,000 startups are registered, 40,000 plus are active, and typically, if one has to achieve a unicorn status, then one should be at least invested for more than 7 years. That's typically a 7-year cycle when you probably can look at emerging a new unicorn. The total number of funded companies are close to 3,400, which means that here also it is not that easy that you can get funds. Out of 40,000, just less than 10% are the companies which get funded out of all. So it is again, fundamentals are there where people look at and back them. It is again important to look at from the COVID impact. Indeed, this was one of the fastest sector which actually recovered and attracting a lot of capital. So again, this is what we have to be mindful that money is flowing in this ecosystem, and it is only because there is something happening quite innovative. Some of the sectors we can consider very important, which are just now picking up, looking at the India point of view, is EdTech. Last year, a lot of deals actually happened because of Byju, which was very active in doing acquisitions. And again, looking at India, where we are still, most of the population is not well educated, and it's mainly because of, logistic challenges and being too deeply involved in the second or third tier cities. Digital framework is the best way to actually reach and educate everybody. So edtech companies have been very, very proactive last year, followed by e-commerce, where we all are right now shopping because the government restrictions doesn't allow us to move outside our house. And this is now because of technology today that we are able to order and run our house by calling all the possible medicines or foods or retail. So this is there for you. Three cities which are mainly dominant in terms of the startup ecosystem is Mumbai, Delhi, and Bangalore. These are the places where most of the deals are happening, and probably that should continue going forward. It's great that entrepreneurs are coming from different cities, making India as a overall entrepreneur country, and going forward, hopefully more new cities emerge out of this list. So again, to give a overall startup industry trend, India is the third largest startup ecosystem in the world, and still a long way to go. In Silicon Valley, things started from 1980s, and in India, that time actually came post 2010. So we just have done 10 years, of this ecosystem, which is so young and developing. And going forward, another 10 years is going to be really exciting. If you look at from the overall investment point of view, CAGR point, I mean, 18% has been the growth rate for last 10 years, which is phenomenal. If you have to again consider over a 10-year period. Various scheme has been launched by the government to empower startups. There's been a continuous proactive support from the government also, which recognize that this is such an important place to focus on. So again, self-certification, compliance, fast tracking the startup patent, etc., are the few initiatives government has taken. If you have to consider again from the comparison point of view where India is in terms of its unicorn versus China and US, so India has just done 50 versus if you look at from the USA, which is already a house of 300 unicorns, and China 166. So I believe that we do have a potential to make a mark of breaking the 100 barrier, which can happen in the next couple of years. So far, the combined market valuation of all this is over $100 billion. So it is not a small sector. One can be really excited on listed, but at the same time, a lot of action is happening even in the unlisted. Going forward, we believe that technology-enabled businesses are going to be the mainstream, which should be growing and focused. EdTech, health tech, and electrical vehicles are all going to be a reality going forward. Emergence of special purpose acquisition companies, which has been the recent trend in US, is again a very, very big enabler for the startups to get listed in the markets. and again that gives an exit to the investors, and also gives a validation that yes, one once invest in these companies also do get an exit. Venture debt is another place where people are getting funds, so it is not fully dependent on equity funding. Venture debt is also important to the ecosystem, and that segment is also growing. So just to understand, how money is made, right? It's fine, we all understand these things, but how the money is made, right? If somebody is writing a check to these startups, then what should be the outcome? What should be the expectation? So I'm going to explain you through this life cycle of a startup, and on the right hand side there's a round structure which would give you some color in terms of understanding the sector, how it is happening, right? So the entry point of any company which just start and they require fresh capital, those are considered to be a seed or angel funded, which is just the beginning. Typically, these companies are funded by your friends and family members or some kind of angel networks which come and give them the seed capital. That's the capital where the validation of the idea they're looking to happen, and they're putting that initial years behind it. So typically, it's a 2-year journey before one can look at serious institution coming to the next round. Then the rounds are followed by a pre-series A, series A, B, C, and D onwards. And after D, the IPO comes in the picture. So if today we are getting excited on Zomato, that which is coming to the bourses, then it is at a place which is going beyond series D, right? So what is the opportunity today if one is writing check at such an early stage, right? If you look at from the pre-series A point of view, where Rockstar comes and invests after a validation of revenue, etc. If one invests at a pre-series A level and continue to go till series D, which is a journey of a 7-year, and probably that's where a possible unicorn can come, then an investment of rupees just 5 lakhs in one company can result you to make close to 11 crores. Yes, 11 crores. That's the money one can expect if you look at from that 227x multiple available at Series D, right? So is it far stretched? Is it possible? Not possible. Again, if you have just one company in the portfolio, probably not. Then you have to be really lucky. But if you have a portfolio approach, then certainly it is possible considering what is happening in the ecosystem. So this is the one representation which shows that if you participate at one stage, what happens followed by the next stage. We at Rockstar come at a pre-series A and exit at series B. Therefore, our target multiple is anything from 15 to 20x of the money which we typically invest. So if we are able to go through that series B onwards, definitely, who knows that we would be probably also getting one unicorn in our portfolio. Investment criteria is very important. As I said, that we definitely understand that one has to bet on validated ideas at least to a certain extent. Therefore, we make sure that those companies have at least 2 years of operation with minimum 2 crores of revenue, having a gross positive margins. Our ticket size typically we invest close to 1 to 2 CR in an overall round, which is more than $1 million. So we follow a co-investment model along with other VC funds in order to make sure that right compliance, right structure is there, and we are able to enable ourselves also from the exit point of view. We only focus on India. We believe that India is a large market, and therefore only remaining to India is important. We ensure that we are, adding our value from the growth strategy point of view, active governance, give them the access to network in terms of, enabling their business to expand, and of course help them to do a follow-on fundraising. These are the few names which we have shared. I mean, we have already done 6 investments out of this fund, and it is across fleet management business to home automation to a virtual reality in real estate to agri e-commerce to super specialty diagnostic and life science business, and of course in AI-based content intelligence platform. So we have done 6 investments so far, and we continue to invest along with other co-investors as mentioned here. So overall, if we have to look at from our portfolio companies, the combined valuation is already crossed more than 200 crores, and we still are very excited that these companies can really offer a big solution to the ecosystem. These are the typical sector split which we have done. Typically, our average revenue of the company would be close to 14 crores with a deal size of almost 13 crores. We make sure that the companies are having some kind of serious revenues before we write a check. Of course, these companies' average age would be close to 5 years from the inception, and B2B and B2Cs are split. We have been. A little bit talking about our fund strategy. So, as earlier covered, that we are a hybrid fund, which is one of a kind, and probably one of the few which have this kind of 51-49 split between mid and small cap listed equities and startups. So we do this. The maximum number of investments we intend to do is maximum 15 under each head. Our fund tenure is shorter than any other available funds in the market. Typically, we follow a 4+1 model where 4 years is where we are looking to invest. Pre-series A bridge rounds where we focus on, and mid cap and small cap is where the listed equity comes. Few sectors under the startup ecosystem is consumer products, mobility, healthcare, enterprise application, agri-tech, and fintech. So these are the major sectors which we look at, and the factors theme, as I explained earlier, is where we are looking for a listed equity model. Simple structure. I mean, as I again repeated that we are not a PMS, we are a AIF Cat 2 fund. So the structure is very simple. It is a very, very regulated fund. SEBI has enormous, ways of controlling things, and here the risk is very low in terms of the structure point of view. Look at from that. If you look at Rockstar Capital Investment Fund, it's a trust structure, and the trust is actually holding the investments. The investors are known as LPs, and the manager is called as IM. The investment manager is Rockstar Capital. The trust is managed by trustee, which is Milestone here in our case. So this is quite a simple structure. One gets units. It is as comparable as how the mutual fund industry operates, where the investor gets units once they get in. This is very interesting to note that how our fund has performed over the last 2 years. Interestingly, that we have managed the risk very well. Over the last 2 years, we managed to generate close to 21% return, and even in bad times, that before 2020. When markets were not doing well, we never lost more than 10% of our own, funds. So therefore, we have been very tight, and this hybrid strategy actually allows the risk diversification very well. And that's probably one secret that, the return possibility is much higher than actually losing probability in bad times. So this is the final slide before I come on team, that why should you sell your Ferrari and actually invest in mid caps and small caps and startups. Is very simple, right? It's a matter of disproportionate returns which one can generate out of this asset class. If you look at from Oyo, BharatPe, and Paytm, they have already done close to 100x kind of returns to their investors. Diversification, although startups are not recommended for retail investor, but if a small allocation is even done, that can really create a significant value going forward. New age economy, is something is coming through this new technology. So Zomato, Oyo, Snapchat, Cred are the names which we all are aware of, have been making a mark. Again, we have seen that government has enabled private retirement funds and insurance company this year to invest in this ecosystem. So another validation that this is an asset class which even government recognizes, and given the mandate now to these insurance companies to invest from 5 to 15% of their corpus now into this asset class. From the listed equity point of view, I mean, I have already spoken enough, but if you have to look at from the Nifty small cap index, which came in 2004, and today in 17 years from inception, Nifty small cap index alone has made 900% return or 53% annualized return. So if one is concentrating where to find liquidity, probably that is not the best way to think, because the longer you stay, the more you make. And here, if you had just invested in the index itself, your money would have grown more than 50% annualized for such a long period. So it is another point to note that one should be looking at much larger view rather than a short-term approach. Technology-enabled businesses are coming up. There's a lot of discount and there's a lot of valuation gap again in the mid and small cap stocks, which I've already covered. That 4,700 odd companies are there at that stage, which is still not discovered well. And if one is looking to take bets on those names, who knows that what kind of returns can be made in the next 10 years. Nothing is short without a team. I am blessed that before starting this fund, We have this team with Samir, Ritesh, Gaurav, and Rajesh, who have been instrumental setting up Rockstar Capital along with me and playing key role in terms of doing the entire fund management. Of course, we have other service partners with us, which works with us along with this. Therefore, we are a team which delivers, the returns for our investors. So, thank you so much for watching this presentation. Now, probably I'll be happy to take more of a Q&A here.
It was a great presentation, Abhishek. Thanks for taking us through. And in fact, one of the participants have highlighted the current challenges and said that you are a over optimist. So that is the kind of presentation you've taken, and the ultimate takeaway is that there is a huge opportunity in wealth creation in the next decade, being it a listed space or an unlisted space. So with that note, let's move to Q&A session. We have a couple of questions which has been collated. I mean,
Yeah,
have
sure.
picked from this forum, as well as we have taken from our clients as well. So time is 5:20. Maybe we'll take some next 20 minutes to cover as much as possible. And beyond that, if something is unanswered, we'll definitely address that offline. So we'll move on to the first question. So Abhishek, what are your misses in the unlisted space, and what's lesson you learned and where you went wrong?
So the learning remains that one actually sometimes when you're starting and one cannot be just over optimistic only from the point of view of looking at an idea. It is important to look at validation. When I was doing my angel investment, in that learning phase, I was ensuring that I was investing across possible stages. So I've invested in seed as well as at a Series B. So if I have to consider for my 24 startup portfolio, the learning has been that if you are investing at a very, very early stage, that is seed and angel, your risk reward ratio can be huge, but the risk also is very, very high. So therefore, that's one place where we feel is a place of disappointment. And as a fund, we took that proactive measure of participating at a pre-series A so that the risk is lowered and we're looking much better validation. Now, from the success point of view, there are many. So, I'm happy to cover that once it comes. Again, portfolio allocation is another important thing. It's always, difficult to say that which one will actually work. Whether it's listed or unlisted doesn't matter. At the end of the day, when you invest, you can be never sure that which idea is going to make you 100x. But if you have a portfolio approach, then certainly it covers up. So that would be my thoughts here, that one should look at a little validation rather than just putting money behind an idea.
Great. So the next question, in fact, you have covered this, but if you can elaborate, on the risk side, generally small cap and startup investment is considered to be a high risk investment. Your fund is an hybrid fund investing in both startup and small cap. So how do you manage the risk?
So Pallava, the risk is managed by the allocation itself. If you look at interestingly, knowing very well that it is such a high risk category and people might be worried that how one should look at it, we have actually smartly divided this in two buckets. And under that, even from the listed or startups, we are at least investing in 15 companies each. So from the allocation point of view, the number becomes very, very minuscule in case if that strategy or that company doesn't work out, right? So again, just to give you a rundown number, right? Typically in an AIF, as you are aware, then one has to write a check of 1 CR. Now here we are allocating that for a simplicity's sake, let's divide into 50-50. And therefore 50 lakhs goes in your listed and 50 lakh rupees goes in your unlisted. If we are investing in 15 companies, from that 50 lakhs, your per company allocation would be close to 3.5 lakhs, right, to 4 lakhs. Now, if that out of 15 companies, if we are looking at that 5 companies might not do well, right? Or let's make it more worse. Okay, let's say 10 companies doesn't work, right? Then what is your allocation? 35 lakh rupees is gone, right? And then your remaining 15 lakh rupees is invested in the remaining 5 companies, and then you are looking from the multiple as we have highlighted. Otherwise, one company out of this 5 moves to 20x return at a Series B exit, that makes you 1 crore rupees, right? From 75 lakh rupees to 1 crore rupees, depending on how the multiple is playing out. So, one or two companies actually can cover up the entire allocation of money which you've invested. So we are smartly doing it through this strategy because we do believe that things can go wrong. But overall basis, if you look at from the strategy of allocation individually, that way you are protected. So that's how we are managing our liquidity as well as potential in terms of making money is also concerned.
Good. So we understand, in the listed equity space, every day it is being traded in the market. But however, with regards to startup, how someone understand the valuation, what is the period, right? I mean, whether it's a quarterly or a daily basis or an hourly, how do you do that generally on the valuation side or your 51% investment on the startup side?
So, Pallava, we feel that it is an asset class which requires a longer gestation period. There is no two ways about it. One cannot compare the listed equity secondary market liquidity versus when we consider startups. So one has to take a view of at least 5 to 7 years if one is looking to invest in this asset class. Right? It is still unproven, and I am naming it as an asset class because the allocation is increasing from the data point of view. Again, we have to see from last 3 years what is happening. So I would say it is a game to remain a little longer in order to make one. Now exits are happening, so typically various strategies can be explored. Where the corporates nowadays have been very active. If you look at the recent acquisition happening from Tata Group, every probably third day there is some kind of announcement where Big Bazaar or a 1mg. You look at from Reliance and Tata, both of them have been quite a big instrumental in terms of acquiring startups. And again, that means that early stage investors do get an exit, right? And this goes to a much better hands in terms of making a better use of that idea and scale it up. So I feel that one definitely can look at this, but of course your time horizon has to be little long.
Okay. So Abhishek, your presentation says that your allocation in unlisted space within B2B is much higher than B2C. If you compare last decade, most of the large wealth creation has happened in B2C. So if you can highlight, why your allocation is much higher at B2B when compared with B2C.
So, Pallava, I mean, I believe that one cannot say that trend is my friend. We are fundamental, so we have to consider a little longer duration. What is happening now is that, we believe that the B2B space is going to explode. 5 years ago, a SaaS model was totally unproven, right? It was very difficult to charge your customer something billing annually, right? For example, today, if one is using a Practo or any other platform or like Amazon Prime, one actually spends 200 rupees annually paying them to just to become their Prime customers. So that is without actually doing any transaction, just to become a member. So SaaS enabled businesses we believe is going to be a next big thing, and that hasn't happened. Again, much has not spoken about it, but the key difference is that B2B companies are basically catering direct the corporates, and typically these companies require less funding than those companies which are into the B2C space, because consumer brand with a population of 138 crores, it is definitely require a lot of bandwidth of capital. So therefore, we believe that B2B can be a lot of frugality can come in, and they can really do. One of the classic example can be Zoho, right? How they have done it is phenomenal, right? I mean, the frugality is amazing, and of course, they have done it over a period of time. But again, that's again another example one can consider in a successful nature. So we believe that B2B is a space for next 10 years, and therefore we have been bullish on that segment.
Okay, great. So as we know that minimum investment is once a year for this fund. So do you take that once a year upfront or do you have multiple tranches? How do you manage that money?
No, no, not at all, Palava. Once he asked straight away, I mean, I definitely don't think that that should be the case. We typically do it in over, 4 equal installments over a 1 year period. So, it is good for the cash flow point of view. So, one writes a 25 lakh rupees multiple over a four quarters. So, therefore, it is over a 1 year period. One is actually, putting the entire capital in the fund.
Okay, great. So with regards to skin in the game, so what is the size you've been allotted to this fund? I mean, from your fund house.
So, from our point of view, we are committed to follow SEBI guidelines. The SEBI guidelines typically says that, the corpus, whatever you are managing, at least 2.5% of your capital should be there. I'm happy to say that my allocation is much higher than that. We ourselves have been invested in this fund and our allocation is more than 5%. So that way, the skin in the game, which is of course, now SEBI is putting that thing very, very, prominently, even in the mutual fund industry. We have been very, very categorically clear that you can't ask others to put money in your own fund if you yourself are not putting your own capital. So yes, I am very bullish on this segment, and our own capital is there, which we are managing along with other investors.
So I'll take one last question, Mr. Abhishek. So how do you see the valuation for the startup at the current stage when compared with last 2 3 years?
So I would say that valuations have definitely a little bit moved up, and it's a mainly a function of liquidity which is available in the overall market. Uh, Again, it is backed by the second time, third time founders which are coming and starting some new ventures, and therefore they are proven in their nature, which they are commanding much better valuation than probably they have done last time. So it is again, it is coming to an age, I would say, and certainly, when you're looking at early stage Pallava, it is not about valuation. It is about that initial validation, and whether that validation can be a scale going forward, and whether it is so big that it can really solve the problem of the country of this scale. So if there is something which you can, get a sense out of this, initial grass green shoots, then that's where you take a bet on. And in there, if you considered and focus more on valuation, then you probably might not get into these investments. So I would say that initially these companies are very small, and therefore we typically would say that it is not more on valuation, it is more on the vision of the founder and looking at a larger picture, that if these companies really go far, then what kind of money can be made.
Great, Abhishek. It was, I mean, really fascinating, having discussed with you and looking at your presentation. It was really insightful. So is there any closing note you'd like to give, Abhishek?
So my only remark would be that Pallava, I would request everybody to be bullish on the country. Overall, sometimes I do see a sense that most of the time people do criticize a lot of things which is happening in the country. But this is not a time to criticize. This is a time to be the change, right? And the change has to start from you. Don't expect the things to turn around by somebody else. You are the person who's leading. We have an excellent demographic. We are a young country. We have 10 years going forward where the economy is definitely going to grow. This is a time to be entrepreneur. This is the time either you be the entrepreneur and be the change, or back the entrepreneur and be wealthy. There is no third way of getting wealthy. So yes, be invested, stay positive.
Wonderful, wonderful, Abhishek. Abhishek, thanks for your time. And participant, thank you very much for staying with us. Hope you would have enjoyed the session thoroughly, and look forward in hosting another such insightful event. Thank you, everyone.